Hi, welcome to another episode of Let's Get Printing. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, the Business Development Manager at DecoNetwork. I also happen to own my own shop that I founded 15 years ago. And in all my time in the decoration industry, I've always strived to be a one-stop shop. And that term has really changed over the years, especially around the pandemic when it comes to apparel decoration. The idea of being a one-stop shop used to really revolve around, hey, I need to offer embroidery and printing onto apparel and accessory products. And when it comes to printing, I'm going to do both bulk screen printing and low-run digital, potentially. That has really changed into, if you're going to be a one-stop shop, you need to satisfy all your customers' wants and needs when it comes to branded products. So it goes way beyond apparel for most customers, in which it's hard good promo products, signage, and paper printed products. And using a platform like Sage allows you to become a one-stop shop, as it's a platform that connects decorators with suppliers, and all of it revolves around distributors pushing those orders out to those two parties. So we're very excited today to have Jarod Thorndike, the VP of Business Development at Sage, to teach us how to get started with selling promotional products for as low as $59 a month. Before we talk about promo products, we need to talk about our awesome sponsor, DecoNetwork, the all-in-one shop management platform that features both a front-end website with a design tool to take those custom quotes and orders, the ability to provide websites to your network of customers, whether there's school that wants to fundraise or a business that needs an ordering portal. And third, all of those websites, your network, flows into one order management system where you can create quotes from scratch, process your orders, raise purchase orders with suppliers, keep everybody organized, reduce your mistakes, and open new opportunities. Now, let's get back to the show. How's it going, Jarod?
It is going well, Zach.
I'm excited to talk promo products with you. It's something that a lot of us decoration shop owners overlooked for years. And I would say, I don't know, coincidentally, around the pandemic, we've seen kind of a shift in the promo world where it used to primarily be your classic distributor who doesn't do any production of any kind, whether it be apparel or promo, sign, whatever. They're just outsourcing it. And then around the time of the pandemic, shops started like, hey, I need to diversify. There's other products we could be supplying. What's this Sage platform all about? And how can I start offering these other products without doing the production? So, Jarod, give us a rundown of the promo industry and how you've really seen it change in the last handful of years, or am I just making stuff up? Because I just, based on my conversation with shops, it does seem like, the days of being a one-stop shop isn't necessarily what you do in-house, but what products you offer. And it goes beyond apparel now. And I'm even seeing it with the big guys that maybe went the opposite. I mean, you look at a sticker mule. Well, there was a sticker company. Well, guess what? They do apparel now. They do promo. Vistaprint, they're doing promo. Staples, they're doing promo. It goes way beyond that. So, yeah, talk to us about promo products, Sage, and what, everybody needs to know about, the opportunity.
Getting involved. Yeah. So I guess it makes sense to back up a little bit and kind of give you a landscape here. So as far as myself, been in the industry almost 19 years. Title VP of Business Development here at Sage. For those of you that aren't really familiar with what Sage is, we are the data aggregation business management tool for the promotional products industry. I think most people probably do know that, but it might as well just be said without just assuming that everyone knows who we are and where we sit into the promotional products landscape. So with that, it was, I believe in 2010, I think it was, whenever we established a relationship with the industry association on the promo side, which is PPAI, Promotional Products Association International, that then sprung the industry forward with allowing their members to have their first license of Sage as a member benefit. Or you could say the reverse, meaning that if you already have Sage, now you get your PPI membership as a benefit on that side of the fence. So that really launched our business forward from a technology provider, as well as then PPAI as the governing body of the association, really solidified what they do for the industry. So now that it gives us a little bit of kind of where we sit on the playing field, it creates some context to provide more of a universal discussion on what we see, just because naturally, due to the nature of us being the data aggregator with all the suppliers in the industry, having all of that data into our system and then being able to provide that and along with the other technology tools to the distributor base in the industry, it gives us a little bit more of a different perspective than you might otherwise not get from someone else out there in the industry. So with that, I know you were asking some questions kind of from a timeline standpoint. We really saw the same thing. For the longest time, there was it was an either or. It was everyone wanted to stay in their lane, so to speak. So if you did print, that's where you primarily stayed. If you did signage, you primarily stayed in that lane. If you did promo, the other, obviously you stayed in that lane. Then, as you said, with the advent of, I think, technology combined with the economic landscape of just print seeming to shrink a little bit, I think that was the first indicator of promo being something that they wanted to investigate. And then, because we saw that even before the pandemic, and then of course the pandemic truly launched everything into, hey, everybody just trying to survive. So if that's with promo, if that's with PPE, and maybe that's probably another conversation of like maybe that was the launching point of people having to pivot their business into doing something that's a little bit outside of their realm in order to truly survive, and then naturally being able to keep doing that after the fact. I think with their customer base saying like, hey, you know what, I can actually uh, still provide this along with recovering from the pandemic and then going back to the traditional business model. So that kind of gives, I guess, sets a little bit of that.
Well, and I had overlooked promo for a long, long time. I think a lot of us apparel decorators have poor assumptions, or at least I did, and I always was worried, oh, promo is going to be, it's going to cannibalize selling a product that has a better profit margin. I just made these assumptions. Hey, there's like, I'll make 10% off of selling some pens.
Mhm.
So let's start there. Cause why would you offer promo products if they're not profitable? What is your average markup in the promo world? When you're just playing the outsource game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends on your customer base as well as your strength and how you go to market. The traditional model, I'd say probably the industry average is probably about 35%. But I do know some distributors that are extremely savvy and create a lot of additional value from the creative aspect to then some technology with maybe even some stores that can increase that profit margin to upwards of from 35 to 45%. I think it typically maxes out around the 50% mark, but it depends on, again, the product, the customer, all that sort of thing. But to your point, the margin is there. And I think that going back to your initial point, which I know we're kind of bouncing a little bit, but I think it is relevant, is what we hear whenever we go to some of those shows with those particular shops that are they, where they do most of the printing in-house. It's that lack of control where they don't know what they don't know. First off, they don't know who the suppliers are, and they don't want to jeopardize the relationship that they have with their current customer base by offering something they're not familiar with, or they don't know what the quality is going to end up being. So I think that's that first hesitation. And then second of all is going to be, again, the unknown of and the wide breadth of product that is out there. I mean, I know in just our database we have 1.3 million products, which is going to be,
It's a lot.
incredibly overwhelming to someone that's just not familiar with the industry as a whole. So,
No, it makes complete sense. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny. Once I started like outsourcing signage, I was that hesitant, oh, this is my first time. And then you start to get familiar with it. And by like the fourth time you've outsourced something, you're like, what else can I outsource? And that's something that I think all shops should, gain confidence in. I'm asked all the time, Jarod, if I could start today, what equipment would I buy? I wouldn't buy anything. I wouldn't, I really wouldn't. It's funny. In college, I was getting ready to start my business, and my friend's dad had a company called Rapid Promotional Marketing. So it was RPM, and it was kind of like a racing thing, and it was all about quick speed. And he told me, don't touch a product. And when he always said don't touch product, I didn't take it a certain way, but I ran the opposite. Being 20 at the time, I started buying screen, DTG, embroidery, now DTF equipment. And there's most days I'm like, gosh, I wish I didn't own any of this and have the overhead. And, it's very hard to find the employees at times. So it is something where, gosh, to have the confidence to not have 100% control. I do think it is a little hard for some decoration shops because they're so used to doing the production in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, hey, if you're going to be in a podcast with me, we're going to jump around. So back to kind of some of the terms that you threw out there, because as a decorator, I completely didn't understand them initially.
Mm-hmm.
A distributor. So in the promo world, we really have distributors and suppliers.
Correct.
And Sage is the platform to bring both parties together. And from an apparel decoration standpoint, we think of it like a Sanmar as a supplier. And they still are a supplier in the promo world. But then there's suppliers who also do the decoration, correct?
Right.
Like we have suppliers that do just the blank supplying, and then we have some that are just doing the decorating. They're technically still a supplier. And then we have some that are doing the decorating and the supplying of the good.
Well, it's funny you say that is because, like, for instance, in our world, we consider pure decorators more on the distributor side than you would on the supplier side, because we know
that makes sense. Yep.
Right, because we do know that a lot of decorators do have their own shop, and then they sell to what we call the end user, right? And so with that being said, then that makes that fit that mold more than on the supplier side. Because again, the suppliers, like you said, say you got an apparel vendor like Sanmar that is going to be providing that product, that apparel to the decorator to then go sell. So I can see it, the worlds blend for sure.
So again, if you're outsourcing promo, just for everybody out there, you are a distributor. That is what most people who are joining Sage, who aren't doing any decoration, you are a distributor, and you are finding those suppliers and those decorators to outsource the jobs to. So if most of your contract screen printer embroiderers, they're on Sage. They are, that is where they get a good chunk of their business. Every time I go to a shop that revolves around contract decorating printing, they're like, PPAI, man. And just so everybody, this was very confusing to me, Jarod, for a while. You have two main platforms out there. You have ASI and you have Sage.
That's right.
And then you have PPAI, which I think is one of the bigger things that really sets Sage apart. And it was confusing to me initially. What the heck is Is this a third platform? No, it is essentially the nonprofit partner of Sage, and they refer each other new subscribers. PPAI is the educator of the promo world. Like Jarod's saying, there's over 1 million products. There's a lot of different decoration processes. It's a lot to learn. And when you're doing production yourself for like apparel, you naturally make mistakes and you learn, we can't do this, we can't do that. When it comes to promo, you're outsourcing all of it. And to really learn and to do it, to the full potential, that's where having like a PPAI and all of the education and resources really helps. And then Jarod, the trade show.
Yeah, I was gonna say the trade show, but going back into, PPAI is the governing body of the trade association. So they're the nonprofit trade association, and they work, on the behalf of the industry, and especially from advocacy in Washington to make sure that, we don't get trampled from the legislative side of things, to product safety, to making sure that products are safe and provide education tools related to that. And then obviously the educational piece of just knowing the industry and the terminology and trying to set some guidelines and basis for suppliers and distributors to adhere to. So there's a lot of moving parts to that now. And again, the reason why they partner with us is because of the technology aspect of them not being suited towards that. Obviously, we don't want to have a part of the educational standpoint in that regard. Now, we do have a lot of education in regards to the technology tools that we offer, but that's why we work in tandem with each other, which makes it a good partnership overall.
And Jared, how long would you say, somebody's just getting into promo, how long does it take them to really get comfortable? I mean, I was touring a shop last week in Miami. They were killing it with promo. And they were just telling me, hey, it takes time to get good at it. What is a fair amount of time if somebody's doing it fairly often?
Yeah, so what I always tell people, especially if they have a shop and they're trying to get immersed in it, is don't bite off more than you can chew because that will put a bad taste in your mouth. What I always say is find those, say, five really good suppliers that you can build a good relationship with first and really get to know their product line, make sure they have a wide enough product line that you can serve your customers based on, with the generalities of what you think that they would offer. So start there, and then of building that relationship and knowing again how their terms, the way that their products work, their decoration techniques, their pricing. So, and again, the more business you do with those different suppliers, the better pricing that you're going to get, which makes sense. So that way you're not biting off more than you can chew right off the bat. The second thing I always tell people to do, which is what you were alluding to right at the beginning, is don't sell things that you're not going to make margin on that's going to also make it more difficult. So I know that, and in your example before, you're like, hey, I don't want to really be selling 500 pins. I can't make any money doing that. And all it's going to do is just cause a headache. And my response back is, okay, don't sell pins. So if you don't want to sell those pins, then whenever somebody comes to you and I ask for that, just say, I'm sorry, that's not something that we offer, but we do offer really nice apparel. We also offer really nice drinkware, backpacks, anything with bags, something that's going to create some some good margin, some good pricing in there, and those typically those orders go a little bit better. And then the third thing I always say is all of your customers are buying promo; they're just not buying it from you.
Yep.
So usually whenever people hear that is you're either referring them down the street or they just don't think you can do it and they're going someone else. Everyone has to market their business, and promo is one of the ways that a very good way that most people take advantage of. And so you can either decide to just start, or you can refer it down the street, take a little cut, from somebody else. I mean, that's one way to get into it too. If you find another distributor that does it really well, and you can have some kind of referral program just to either learn, to get the basics down. That's another way to get involved. But I hate to say the word tiptoe into it, but definitely don't overload yourself by saying we offer, anything and everything, because then you will get asked for anything and everything, and then it will really become really difficult for you.
Well, and promo and yeah, I got to be careful when I say promo because apparel is absolutely part of promo. I mean, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
the promo. It's a walking
Yeah.
billboard. But what I think a lot of us think when we think of promo, we think of hard goods, at least from the apparel decoration world. And there are similarities and differences. So again, when it comes to suppliers in the apparel world, when we're just buying blanks, there's a couple dozen here in the States, but you have your big three that are just way bigger than everybody else. In the
Yeah.
apparel world or in the promo world, I think there are a handful of much bigger suppliers that offer a wider mix of products, but then you have a lot of individual suppliers that they just do that one type of product and they're really good. I mean, I know one, all they did was make remote control coolers. Now, you're like, why do we need a remote control cooler? Well, hey, guess what? You can brand it, and if it's brandable, it's a promo product.
Yeah.
And that's all they did. So it is different. And that's why, like, going to a show like PPAI, it allows you to connect with that wide range of different suppliers and gain
Mhm.
confidence and get samples and so forth because it is overwhelming the different types of products out there. And again, I'm going to just pull out another assumption. I always thought of a lot of trinkets and trash is what I call them. You know, you have different types of promo products, Jarod. You have the very cheap giveaways, you have better giveaways, and then you have corporate gifts. I mean, there's all types of promo products. So to make an assumption that it's just, you know, cheap stuff is a bad assumption.
Yeah. And you know what is we're the landscape is changing, the terminology is changing, it's taking time to get away from that stigma. But I think there is a concerted effort for a variety of reasons. One is just that, but two, from a sustainability aspect. So, and a lot of the new term that people talk about is don't call it brand fill. Like, you know, it's the landfill
Yeah.
brand fill
Yeah.
of stuff that just somebody has and you just needed to have it, but they end up leaving it in their hotel room because they're at a conference, or they end up throwing it away, which obviously doesn't serve the purpose from the impression you're trying to achieve. So I think people are getting a lot more savvy. I think suppliers are getting a lot more savvy. I think the distributors are also realizing that their end-based customer is asking a lot more of them to know about where the product was made. Is it has any kind of a sustainable aspect to it, or recyclable aspect to it, or even a social good aspect to it. So it's not just about finding a cheap product anymore. And I think that most people are, or the landscape is changing in that regard for sure.
Yeah.
You don't typically find. I mean, there's always going to be that small stuff that's out there, you know, some keychains and things like that. But I don't get the sense that most people are recommending that or offering that on a regular basis because of the perception that it provides.
So you've seen, you know, in your 19 years, you've seen a pretty big shift, would you say, in the product offering? Would you say 20 years ago it was kind of what I was assuming, where it's not all cheap stuff, but it is, you know, more of those promotional giveaways, and now it's become a lot nicer stuff.
I think that there is it's still there. I mean, everything's still, you still really had high end quality items even, you know, whatever, 15, 19 years ago. You still had all that. But I do think again the consumer is a lot more conscious of it.
Okay.
And
Yep.
I think that's where in the education of that aspect is what's changing. And so the budget is still, and you look at, you start to look at some analytics of like the average order size versus the average order dollar amount, and, you know, what they're buying and that sort of
Yep.
thing, which can kind of help play into that to try to get some sort of an idea of what is actually happening from an industry perspective. Of course, the pandemic really throws all those analytics off for a couple of years.
Yep.
So we're still trying to understand what that impact was. But I do think that for the most part, most people are. I mean, think about it before. Like even before Yeti was such a big deal or Stanley was a big deal, you just got your tumbler mug, and it
Yep.
was $3, and it would be unheard of to charge 30 something dollars
Yep.
for a tumbler mug. I mean, everybody laugh at you, and now that's very commonplace, and customers are willing and able to pay for that. That's just
Absolutely.
one example.
No, no, yeah, no. The Stanley Cup is a great, like you're talking about an in-demand product that you don't have to do it yourself. And so, you know, again, coming from the perspective of decorator, wanting that control. So why would I not do promo in-house? Well, Jarod already told us there's a million plus products.
Yeah.
And with most of these products, some of the decoration processes are ones that a lot of shops do. I mean, it's engraving. Pad printing is very popular. It isn't typically done by an apparel print shop unless they're doing a lot of tagging. If you go to one of the trade shows and you see like ink cups and so forth, it's cool. It's really cool. But it's a piece of equipment that really needs to be printing every day, and it's typically each type of equipment is set up for a certain piece of product. I mean, it's a jig situation. If we think about apparel printing, we thread it onto a platen. Most shirts will go on there. Then we have sleeves in youth, and that's about it. Versus it's all jig based for a lot of these products that are being decorated and at the speed that they need to be decorated at. So it just never feasibly makes sense most of the time if you're not, you know, in the apparel war, if you can't get it from Sanmar and you're already printing it in house, you probably don't want to print one of these other types
Yeah.
of products. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're talking about hard goods. I mean, the like you said, the machinery that it would take to justify that expense. I mean, it's just not worth it. I mean, for a variety of reasons. I mean, all the way down to trying to find good employees. So, I mean, there's a variety of reasons why that may not be the right avenue for you. And again, going back to the, talking about the products that are offered, like in a good way to dip in, because I know the whole purpose of this is to get somebody immersed in it, or at least get them thinking about it, is really look at their customer base, the customers that they have, and that what the demographic is. Like typically the ones that come into your shop, that you kind of have a pretty good idea what vertical they're in, and that can help you determine the specific products that you think would be offered. I know some of the resources that we provide allow you to do just that. So we have a lot of different marketing pieces that say, hey, these are really good products that work well for the healthcare industry. If you have
Uh-huh.
construction, here are the different products, and we have all the analytics behind that. Just because, again, we have the entire industry that utilizes our product, so we kind of know what's trending and that sort of thing, and so we provide that as a resource. But again, I think you can also do that internally. And then there's some products that are just universally sold that are real easy. Like again, we're talking about tumblers. I mean, you can put a couple of as like a little showroom in your shop out front and have a backpack, a couple of polos, a couple of tumbler mugs, maybe some kind of technology item like a little speaker or something like that, and maybe a mat. I mean, I know I have a good buddy of mine that does floor mats. That is to me, it's the easiest sell with really high margin, and they're about $300 a pop. And the first thing you should ask a customer is, hey, do you have a mat
Yep.
outside your
Yep.
door? I mean, that's the easiest sell you can think of. Well, would you like one? Or did that help, branding? So it's not as hard or complicated as you think initially. Like, of course, there are specific projects that as you go, like you said, you have that one vendor that has the cooler that has radio in it or all sorts of stuff. But typically those that happens because that you have a customer that says this would be cool, or I saw this somewhere,
Yep.
can you get it? And so you start to open up your eyes to a bigger and a wider supplier base based on the needs of your customers as they come. But initially, again, you may not need to do that. You can stick to selling, like again, 30 products from really top end suppliers, and that should get you started and just get familiar with those. And then it'll just naturally, just organically kind of spread from there.
Jared, I love what you brought up, and this is so true. When you can just put together product mixes for that niche of customer,
Mhm.
you don't want to approach a restaurant and say, hey, look, we can do anything. You want to approach them and be like, hey, here are the 20 best promo products that we can offer you. Here's branded napkins, straws.
Yeah.
Or again, we're doing bar opener. And again, it could be a one-off promo. It could be a giveaway. It could be a product that is being sold. There's if it's got a brand on it, hey, let's do it. And you brought up a great point about like the mat. So next time, if you're trying to target a restaurant that and sell them those different products, find a business in that sector. So like a restaurant, I think of like a Crackle Barrel
Yeah.
or a Hard Rock Cafe, and what that experience is like, and
Yeah.
then go to your customer and be like, hey, don't you like what they do? Well, guess what? We can do the same thing, but we've got to convey the brand from top to bottom. When they first enter the door, they feel, even in our world, Jared, again, I'm going to use restaurant as example. Anybody could put ink or embroidery onto a shirt. It's the experience outside of it. Same with the restaurant. It could be the food, but it's the overall experience. And sometimes just that little bit of branding here and there just takes it to that next level and makes you, oh, you know what? I really like that. I think of Crackle Barrel. Let's go back to Crackle Barrel. One of the coolest things are their little miniature syrups that they have. They always make you crack it open. It's a promo product and they sell it in the gift shop. But
Right.
that little experience right there, they could have just brought me regular maple syrup, but they made me open a tiny little glass thing and pour it out. And
Well, it can become, like you said, your own little niche. I mean, when you think of like a restaurant like that, I think of, I know in at least I'm in Texas. So, for instance, you'll be hard fought to find anybody that's not familiar with the Dickey's Cup. So Dickie's
Yeah.
Barbecue
Oh, very
is one
good.
of those where
Yep.
that is one of the ways that they market themselves. And if you think about an impression, I mean, like everybody has one of those in their cupboard. I
Yep.
might need to see it all the time, and it's one of the ways that a significant way that they help market their brand. So you're right, a promo product, and it's something as simple as that, right? That could be all it would take. And it could be a significant driver for your business. I mean, I can't imagine whoever has that account and how many cups that they end up having to supply. But you can help identify that
Yeah.
particular thing that's their little niche that they always hand out or that's always available, that can really make the difference, for their marketing dollars.
Yeah. And when you do it right and you use that unique color, somebody will look, across the street and they can't even make out the drink, but they see that yellow cup and they're
Yeah.
thinking of Dickies. I mean, and you just made a great point about impressions and so forth. That's why I think a t-shirt is the ultimate walking billboard. How I got started in the industry, I had a friend who had his dad owns a restaurant and they were featured on the Travel Channel and the Food Network. They were averaging, at their heyday, a 2 hour wait. And if you're waiting 2 hours, you're going to buy some merch because you're stuck next to the display case. And not to say this is it's a walking billboard, but not to say this is the route, but I always thought it was, at least when I was young. I am not in the market to make as much money off a promo, although businesses absolutely can. I really want my customers paying to market my business. So whether it be that cup or a t-shirt, you're actually making money promoting. And that's a crazy concept when you think about it. You run an ad, you're not just losing money, but the customer is not only paying to market you, but who knows how many impressions it can make for how long. And I've
Mhm.
always joked, Jarod, yes, we optimally want them to wear that shirt. Yes, we want them to use that mug or that cup. But every time they open their drawer and they see it,
Mhm.
every time they open their cupboard, they are seeing
That's
it.
it.
It's
Yeah.
like running a social media ad forever. It's okay if they don't use it all the time. It's okay if they don't show it off, but we're subconsciously, and it's a great concept. And that's why I think a lot of, my push for promo to a business is, let's not get greedy. They're paying to do it, and let's go nicer quality so that they keep it.
Well, and you brought up a good point as far as like, especially, and apparel is a good example of this, and I know that it'll resonate. Is At least when I first started, the apparel that was being presented, that it wasn't cool yet to be wearing. You had to wear your work shirt that had the logo
Yep.
on it, and that world has completely changed to where, I mean, people are excited to get, and there's campaigns around being able to have, depending on the business and that's out there, that to have those particular apparel shirts, jackets or vest or anything related to it, because that brand has set themselves apart, but also because the product itself it's not a cheap product. It's a really cool product as a whole, and so it's something that they do want to keep. I mean, again, the sustainability or the longevity, the durability, I guess is more the right word to say, has gone up significantly in the industry. Uh,
Yeah, no. So to pivot off of that, Jarod, last week again I was in Miami, and this shop is a perfect example, guys. They have two Tajima embroidery machines, a single and a double, and they have a dual heat press. They embroider, they DTF, and then they use Sage to outsource to a screen printer. And then promo has become a huge bread and butter. And one thing that they showed us was the creativity that you can put into a product mix and present to a client. So they're in Miami and they presented to the Miami Football Club a potential box to give to like all the season ticket holders. I mean, again, this is talk about thinking outside the box. And it had the scarf, it had gloves, and then it had a mini bobblehead of Lionel Messi, and it blew me away that they were able to do all this and on a very low run. That's another thing that's a misconception.
yeah,
With all the technology, you've mentioned the word technology. If you think about digital printing, I mean, it's the same stuff is happening in the promo world of hard goods. You can do some cool things with 3D printing and other modeling. So they spent a few $100s to get 20 of these boxes made, And if you think about, other marketing opportunities, it was totally worth the investment and take going above and beyond for the customer to see what's possible. And then it's just really cool that it's not always feasible with apparel, and it's a shirt is a shirt. I need to know your size, but to be able to put something in front of the customer, hey, this is what we could do, is really cool.
Yeah, and to say, you talk about just the different technology or different marketing mediums that are out there. I will say that one of the biggest trends that I've seen over the last, I'd say 5 years, has been what we call kitting. So exactly what you
Yeah.
were talking about, or kitting or packaging, or like custom packaging. And we've all seen the videos of people on TikTok or YouTube and all that. They call it unboxing, right? All they're doing is literally just unboxing some kind of the product, and people will watch people doing that, which sounds absurd, but
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, people do that. And so that experience, people, and there's a lot of money in that. So, and again, that may be something down the line that you'd want to investigate, because it is more of a sales process of saying, hey, by the way, you have the budget for this. But by the way, if you're really trying to create an experience for this particular event, do you know you can add this particular additional packaging aspect for another, $5 each, blah, blah, blah. But that's another way to kind of help market that particular event with the customer and all that sort of thing. But you learn that as you go. But again, these are little trends that they're not going away anytime soon. That the revenue is there. If people ask if that's really the question, is like, can you make any money in it? I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
a $26 billion industry, just the promo side of things. So I mean, there's definitely people making a significant amount of money
26
and a
billion.
very good living off of doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You just now incepted an idea that I'm now thinking, as an adolescent, I was collecting Pokemon cards. That's a promo product for everything else they were doing, if you think about it. And they created a market of its own. It's kind of cool what you can do. You can
That's
do a
right.
lot, but and there's another thing, the kitting, because this totally went over my head. When I'm focused on apparel, we don't really do this. There are a lot of clients that apparel decorators have, in which they bring on new employees, and or they have bigger clients that they want to give things to. And kitting, before you know it, yeah, explain to us how that works, Jarod. And again, this is a different concept that most of us apparel decorators overlook.
Yeah, and I mean, I can give you an example. There's a good buddy of mine in the industry that I'm going to steal his idea, but basically he wouldn't care. His name's Cliff Quicksell, which is just a genius name, anyways. That's his last name. But anyways, he was doing a presentation one time, and he was telling me about a marketing angle that this country club was trying to get new tennis members to this country club, and they were sending out all sorts of like flyers and this and that, and they really weren't making any headway. But then a distributor came up to him and goes, "Hey, why don't you narrow this down to focus on just a certain um, radius?" And they put together a kitting box, and in there was a tennis ball and something else, and it said, the messaging had something kind of, get you, like said, "Hey, we'd love to serve you up, a tour of our
Yep.
facility." And they said that they got like it jumped from their engagement from like next to nothing, like maybe 3% engagement, to like 30 something percent. I mean, which is, I mean, you talk about the bang for the buck, that what they were doing just on the mailings before, which, I mean, it was something so absurd that you wouldn't have thought about. And it was obviously a risk, because there's obviously a lot more to that than there is just to doing, a postcard or something like that. But that's the creative aspect. And all it was, there wasn't even a promo product in there. It was just the kitting of a tennis ball and a message that comes along with it. So, but those are the types of things that you can leverage and put together into a message, from a distributor standpoint, of the creative aspect that I think can also add to it. So that way you don't become just an order taker. That is one other thing I always want to point out is, because then it's a race to the bottom
Yep.
when you talk about pricing. If somebody comes in and they're like, "Well, I can go down the street and I can get it for 10 cents cheaper," then let those guys go. If that's
Yep.
the deal, that's my advice. I mean, obviously everybody do what they want, but if you can create a service, and and they trust you that you're going to always do the right thing, you're always going to provide them with quality product, good decoration, good representation for their brand, they will come back, and they'll pay more for it. They truly will.
Yep. That's what's similar to apparel, like with the promo of hard
Yeah,
goods.
of course.
Anybody can get into it real easy. I mean, I love a lot of things about this industry. One of the best and worst things, Jarod, is how low the barrier of entry is. I mean, it is crazy low, which means the competition to get it, I mean, it'll always be kind of high. And how you differentiate yourself isn't, oh, I can offer more. Although again, you really want to strive to be that one-stop shop so you don't have to keep saying no. I used to love to say no, but you're just giving the opportunity to your competition. Um, it's everything else. Going back to a restaurant, there's a lot of restaurants around. Why do you go back to certain ones? If the food is the same quality, it's the overall experience. I like this wait staff more. I like the
Hmm.
atmosphere. It's everything outside of the core product.
Hmm.
And it's the same experience that you have to deliver to your customers. And it's a made to order product. And apparel, there's a lot of options. And promo, it is even more, which brings me to proposals. So this is something that's a little different with promo of hard goods than apparel. And I'll be honest, I'm pushing DecoNetwork to add this because I don't know why it wouldn't be a good thing. And that is, a proposal is different than a quote. A proposal is, hey, here's some different products that you can go with. Hey, here's the one that you saw on my Sage site and you thought was nice, but I really like this one for 50 cents more each. And you asked for 48, but if you bought 60, this would be the price. So talk to us about proposals and how that's a big part of getting an order put together.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, of course, with the technology tools that we offer, is it kind of it. Of course, we're the research tool portion of it, right? Meaning we have all that data in there, all the products, so somebody can search for whatever they want. But it's the other marketing aspects that really truly allow that distributor to effectively market to their customer base, either on an ongoing basis or from an event, a specific event, a particular task that's going on. So I know at least in our one of the main tools that we have is the ability to grab those products, put them into what we call the presentation area. But I actually like to change up the verbiage because typically when you say a presentation, it's from an old school perspective, it's here you go, here's a
Yeah.
PDF
Yep.
of this particular ideas that you were looking for. Let me know what you think. Whereas now we've transitioned to where, for instance, you send a link to a customer that does have all of the products in there, but they're able to uh, look at the different color options, look at all the decoration options. I mean, there's more than one image in there that they can bring up within that link, and they can communicate directly on the fly. Meaning there's an area for like a chat where they can say, well, with each other. Say it's a team of individuals saying, hey, Bob, do you like this or does it come in red? Well, on the distributor side, we can see all of that and we can say, of course, we can get that in red. Or, hey, do you think we can get this by next Tuesday? The distributor can comment right back. So I call it more of, again, a collaboration tool than a presentation tool. So that's where the technology aspect comes into play. Then, of course, then you have like the marketing side of things with leveraging, for instance, we have a what we call the clients area, which is basically a CRM that allows you to contact your customers on a regular basis, but also import that information into email campaigns. So that way you can have touch points with new ideas that are timely, that are relevant, based on what's going on in the world. Meaning, like right now, it's back to school. So you would have some email marketing coming from that, which was probably a little late, but now coming up, honestly, it's already ready for the holiday season. So some of the email campaigns related to that. So that kind of stuff is automated that you can set up to kind of help your cause a little bit from a marketing aspect. But the tools that are available to you, especially when you take a look at least our stuff, and I'm not trying to make this as a straight sales pitch, but it,
No.
it does it does allow you to immerse yourself into this world a heck of a lot easier than just trying to go, what suppliers do I go to? How do I get a hold of their catalog, or what website do I go to?
So no. Let's actually talk about that, Jarod, because again, anybody can go on to Google, Amazon. I mean, I could buy blank of anything, but and I can get some things decorated and so forth. Talk to us about the tools that Sage provides that
Mhm.
makes it a lot easier to sell promo. Outside of just the connect, yeah, just paint us
Yeah.
the picture of how how easy it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so like for instance, an example, if somebody comes in and they're looking for a particular product, or it could be like, this tumbler mug I've got right in front of me, and you are able to type in exactly what you're looking for, and it needs to whatever quantities you want, even a price range, and it's going to bring up all the suppliers that fit that have that product available. But we have all the other intrinsic things related to it, so it's going to give you the decoration costs that's associated, any setup costs that are associated with it. It's going to have the shipping information already built in, shipping calculators. But the big thing that I would say that you'd want to take advantage of right off the bat is what we call the rating system. So we're similar to how like an Amazon scenario would work, where it's not what we rate that supplier. We don't have any dog in the hunt. It's literally what other distributors rate that supplier as, and of course they can comment and you can see exactly whether or not that's a good supplier based on a lot of different factors. So you've got deliverability, decoration quality, customer service, all those things. So you have those tools at your disposal to kind of help you feel a little bit more comfortable engaging with that particular supplier from the outset. Then on top of that, then naturally, like I mentioned before, the experience of then being able to send out either marketing information beforehand with email marketing. We do also have what we call the Print Studio, which allows you to create custom flyers or catalogs, which actually is a really good idea if you have a shop right out front. Whenever somebody's going to pick up their apparel order, I mean, you can actually have, say, a digest catalog of 30 promo products that are in there that seem to work well, and just say, hey, here's an idea. If you like anything in here, if there's something else that you need, again, it's just something that they didn't even know that you offered that you can just put in with every single order from somebody that comes into your location. So those are the types of things that we can help you out with to help get the ball rolling and to help make it easier for you to market yourself as a promo product distributor. Of course, then on top of that, then from a distributor website perspective, we do allow you to have just that, a distributor-based website that has all of the products that are on there. Of course, again, I would suggest narrowing that down from the 1.3 million products to just say B-rated suppliers and above. So that way that would narrow that down. You could even take it a step further. So then once you actually build those relationships with those key suppliers, you can make it just contain those suppliers right off the bat. So there's a lot of flexibility in order to help. And of course, you can design it based on your customer demographic. So I know some distributors that typically work with, say, just manufacturing companies or just construction or again, just healthcare or just financial. And so you can design your distributor-based website based on your customer base and the products that are typically associated with that. So there's a lot that we can help to help you market yourself and to where you feel comfortable and your customers feel comfortable that you're that resource, as opposed to, man, I'm not sure if this is the right person to engage with from that aspect. So, and again, this is just scratching the surface. I could go on and on about like that aspect.
So again, to get started with Sage though. So, again, I want to confidently start selling promo products. What am I looking at to get started?
I mean, the first thing that you're going to want to do is get set up with the first license of Sage. Typically runs $5.95 for the year or $59 a month. And then that includes, again, your PPAI membership. So, which is an invaluable resource, because what's going to happen is if you sign up for a subscription with us, you're going to get some kind of an engagement with your PPAI rep that's going to let you know about all the education tools that they have available, so you can get immersed in that aspect of it, to learn about, again, you talk about the PPAI Expo, the biggest show from the promo standpoint. It's in January every year. You get free access to be able to attend that show. So the resources that would be available to get started would be pretty substantial right out of the gate. And then, of course, like I said, with us having the research tool, and again, it's not something that you have to buy module by module. So everything is all included with that aspect of it. So not excluding the distributor website. Of course, there's different variations of that aspect too. But just to get started, you have to have that tool to get started.
I mean, so $60 a month. I mean,
yeah.
If you can't swallow that, then you may want to do something else. I mean, because I mean, how many orders do I really have to make? One every
Yeah,
couple months to make, that $60 paid off each month. So it,
yeah,
it you're leaving money on the table, the creativity that it also allows. And then I also like the idea of kind of killing two birds at the same time. Every print shop should have promo products outside of what they print. You
yeah,
should have pens and so forth. And before you're using it as a giveaway, it was amazing. We just did a street fair a couple weeks ago. Free pens. Oh my gosh, Jarod! It's amazing how much people like free pens. And we have. I'll be honest. I'm not trying to give away trash pens, but I've got really nice pilots for our B2B clients.
yeah,
And then I've got a cheaper set for,
yeah.
for the B2C. And it has a little highlighter. That way the kid can have fun with it and so forth. So it's there's just so many opportunities. It just can be a little overwhelming initially and knowing where to start. Um, any other tips that you could give to somebody, a shop that's looking to get started, but hasn't necessarily taken the dive yet?
I would say start to say put out some feelers. You know what? You can kind of gauge
It's a great
based
point.
on ask your customers. I mean, I would just say, hey, do you guys ever buy anything? From a hard good perspective. Of course, they're not going to know that term, but you can say, do you, do you purchase any of this? The answer is typically going to be yes. Secondary thing I would say is what events, what kind of things do they do throughout the year that they need to market themselves? So typically, whenever you can get kind of a checklist of things to kind of help you get started, that with introducing that to your customers, a lot of times they don't even know about it ahead of time. They're like, you know what? Actually, we do. At the end of the year, we do an employee giveaway for all of our employees at the end of the year, or we do end of year awards. Awards is a really good one. You can make some really good money on some nice crystal awards, depending on like whatever their company is. And then, or, oh, we actually host a charity golf tournament once a year that they wouldn't even have thought to like add some kind of a branding element to it. So once you help them identify some opportunities for them to market themselves, then you can start to put that together. You can reach out to them ahead of time to try and, see what those projects might look like and maybe even get a budget of how much they are spending at a time. That helps out. The other main thing that I would do to get started, which I touched on before, is I would go to a trade show or two just to kind of get a little bit more familiar if you haven't been. But then on top of that is I would get some spec samples of some good quality products and create some kind of a shelf in your office. Some kind of you obviously have some apparel samples that are out there that talk about, your decorating capabilities. Well, it's the same thing from the hard goods side of things. Create a shelf and put, some nice bags together, some good drinkware together, and then again, maybe some technology items or some executive items, maybe a portfolio or two. But you can kind of put that together so then it's a wide enough array of product that they get the idea that you are a resource for that without you even having to do anything. Third thing I would do is, which I mentioned before, is have some kind of a flyer or a what we call a catalog, a little digest catalog that you put in with every order that people come to pick up. And so that way it's always top of mind. It's always in there. They know that you offer it, or it may not even be the person that's picking it up. It gets back to the office. Then the person that actually looks at it, maybe it's the marketing coordinator at that point. It's like, oh man, I didn't even know that they offered that. And they were, it might have been somebody else that's always picking it up from your location. So you kind of got to try a bunch of different things. But again, I wouldn't try everything. I wouldn't have the product variety out of the gate. I would be very selective with that. And then just like I said earlier, organically over time that will get a lot bigger. And there will be some. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Just like everybody knows, there will be certain things that fall through the cracks. Like there will be something that does go wrong. Just anticipate that ahead of time, and then keep moving. Just keep moving forward. Learn from it. Keep moving forward. The other last thing that I'll mention in regards to the newest trends that are out there, once you finally find those customers that are doing those repeat orders, um, start to ask them about the procurement aspect. So, and I know this is already something when you talk about, hey, I've got to figure out all my employees how many shirts that they need from like, we need 10 mediums, we need 10 larges, and this and that. is what we call the company store. So being able to
Yep.
leverage the technology of the new of tech of company stores is huge. I mean, that's by far our biggest selling product um, over the last, I'd say, probably 6 or 7 years. Definitely when the pandemic happened, everybody was home. So what were the people doing, especially companies, to engage their employees? They were sending out some kind of a welcome kit or some
Yep.
kind of a just, hey, how are you doing kit? And that was a lot of that. So company stores were a big, huge initiative from that aspect. So you can kind of move with your customers as you keep going. The big benefit that you get, especially with us, is you get a dedicated Sage account advisor that will walk you through every aspect of this. Meaning that they'll tell you, they'll help you get obviously familiar with our products so you can use them effectively, but they also will tell you what the trends are and, hey, help you identify those customers that may be good opportunities for company stores or just bouncing ideas off of it. And it's the same, you keep the same rep or advisor throughout your entire time that you're with them. So, I mean, like I remember, we have some customers that again have been with their account advisor for 15 years. They know everything about them and everything about their business, and so that aspect is really helpful, especially whenever you're trying to get comfortable in the industry as a whole.
And I don't know why it struck me like a lightning bolt, but just ask your customers if they're buying it already. We know that they are,
Yeah.
but you can start to get, yeah, I just bought a case of those or that, and you get an idea of how much money you're leaving on the table, and it's yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, I like to look at it, if it's a logo on it, it's pretty much a branded product for the most part, and if
Oh,
it's not what they
100%.
do, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
But again, I think a lot of times you'll run into customers that don't know they never really they don't know how to spend their marketing dollars. They've never even really thought about it or they just didn't really understand it. So when you start to ask them those identifying questions, again, going back to do you offer your employees gifts? And at the end of the year they're scrambling and somebody's having to go somewhere to get, some whatever coolers from Target or something like that or whatever it could be. And you're going, well, if you're thoughtful about it ahead of time, we can help you out. And again, it's more professional to have your name on it, your branding on it. And then the other events that you could have. I mean, there's also a lot of educational tools that go along with it from like nonprofit organizations that are huge from a promotional product standpoint, from an awareness standpoint. There's just a lot of opportunity out there if you can just kind of open up your mind a little bit to it. But again, help them have the conversation. They don't know a lot of times what's available to them.
here's another thing that just kind of popped in my head, and I could be totally wrong, but it's the way the consumer looks at a product as well. So, like apparel, it almost feels like as a business, I have to buy it. It's an expense. Versus a promo product is a marketing opportunity. I'm spending money on marketing. I'm not necessarily just have a sunk cost. And that's just kind of an initial perspective of it. Does that sound about right though, Jared? Have you seen like customers look at that hard good promo product differently than they do apparel in a way?
Well, 100%. I think it is your representation of your brand, what you provide to your employees to represent your brand. So if you give them nice backpacks and nice shirts and they all have a really nice, tumbler mug that's, right here, stuff like that, that they can carry around with them, that makes them feel good. They have a nice portfolio whenever they go into meetings. That is a representation of that company. And I think when the marketing arm actually sees that, it makes their employees see that it is a change. It is a cultural thing. Promo products is not just giveaways, like you said. I mean, it can be a part of your corporate identity. Is probably a good way of saying it.
Yeah, and I look at it as when in apparel, we typically sell shirts to a business when they need it, and like events and so forth. But it's typically a need behind it.
Hmm.
Promo hard goods doesn't have to necessarily be that way. Because shirts come in different sizes. You typically, you want to be strategic with it. Hard goods, not so much. I see a lot of opportunity of once you present some products to a customer, they just kind of the wheels start spinning in their head and like, what else? What else? And they're easier to upsell additional products to versus apparel. Again, how many shirts does someone need? But hey, we need to borrow bar tab opener. We need a keychain. We need it could keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, yeah. And you'd be surprised too. It's funny how you'll run across, I'll just hear stories from people that'll say they had a client that they said that their max budget for a promo was, say $2,500 a year. And then you present them with a really cool way to market themselves. And it's amazing. All of a sudden that budget went from 2,500 to, $15,000 just overnight, just like that, because somebody was able to relay a good marketing message, a creative way to sell to their customer base or their employee engagement that completely changed. So if you can really embrace the creative aspect of it too, I mean, that's where we talk about the people that are really successful at promo. Again, they're not selling, they're not order takers. We call those order takers. That's not what this is about. It's about truly trying to market a company effectively based on their corporate brand, like the way they present themselves, as well as then, outwardly that's an inwardly thing. And then obviously outward whenever to the market themselves. And it is, I mean, it's effective. There's no way around it. I mean, and when you combine that with all the stuff that, again, that is available. So from a signage aspect to then again, the hard good aspect, and then obviously the apparel, it's a pretty, encapsulating way from a company to brand themselves as a whole.
And I'll be honest, very recently I was like, I really want an eco-solvent printer. I want to be able to print my own banners. And then you realize, why? Somebody's out there willing to print it for less than it would cost me to buy my own eco-solvent printer, because they're going through media and they've got a printer on a whole nother level that it's like, and I think that's the way apparel is even going even more. You've got to be confident to outsource, because from a labor standpoint, and it just makes too much sense. I'm seeing it more and more, just based on my conversations with shop owners. Do what you love, what makes sense in-house, outsource the rest. And again, like you just said, Jarod, promo, we got to think bigger than a hard good. It is apparel. So, even if you're a screen printer or embroiderer, there's going to be jobs that don't fit in with your equipment that you have. You could have several single head machines. You could have a manual press. You get hit with a 1,000-piece order. It's like, yes, I can't tie up all my equipment and kill all my other orders.
Right.
Even outsourcing, even promo, some of that like Sage, it is very helpful, even just in the time that you're overwhelmed with that process that you specialize in-house. It's a great place to find somebody to help pick up the slack. And like you said, Jarod, it's so helpful with reviews. I mean, I love going on Sanmar's site, but I'll tell you, I really wish we had reviews of these products, because it gets overwhelming as far as what I should and should not use. And just that little capability really does help make those decisions. But you also, again, apparel, hard goods, signage, totally went over my head.
Well, you talk about like the logistic aspects. Everybody wants everything, yesterday, and then again, to make things more economical. So for instance, if you got customers where they may have locations, East Coast, West Coast, and then if all of a sudden you have to have all of that apparel come to your location to do all that decorating and then have to get it out, well, you just lose so much margin in that aspect. Whereas if you can find partnerships, throughout the United States, it really helps. I mean, that's the way the world seems to be moving, and I actually know even locally decorators that work together. I mean, of course they have their own business, but they have that exact same thing that'll happen where they're like, I'm overwhelmed, and they help each other out. I mean, which is, you would think would be unheard of, but that what's good for you is good for me. And obviously I'm not going to take that customer, but you can develop those relationships, which is all the way around, I think, the big thing in our industry, which again goes back to my very first point, is find those 5 or so suppliers that you really can develop those relationships with. They'll help you. They'll give you all the information you can want to help you get started. You can tell them exactly what your company is, and they'll say, okay, well, these are the products that I would recommend right out of the gate. They're easy to sell. There's not a lot of options, so it'll just be easy for you to get started. I mean, all that kind of stuff is they want to help you just as much. So it's a really good, it's an easy transition to add to your customer, add to your overall revenue offering.
And Jarod, before we wrap up this conversation, let's just turn the tables on hey, if you have a 12 head embroidery machine, if you have an auto screen press, if you are in the business of contract decorating, you want to join Sage, because almost
Yes.
every shop that I talk to, they're like, oh, this is where we're getting all our orders from.
Hmm.
And it's the ultimate marketing tool. I mean, you're paying a subscription, but the ROI is incredible.
Yeah.
If you're putting out the quality, like you said, that's what's important. You're delivering on time. It's the quality. It's everything outside of the ink on the or thread on there. So yeah, I know. Yeah, talk to us about just how do we become a decorator on
Yeah, so
Sage?
from that aspect too is again we have the suppliers that are in the system, you have the distributors that are having access to the system, but then we have what we call a decorator membership. That is just basically a listing, and it tells you it's basically the phone book. So it's like, hey, this is the decorator, here's where they're located, and here are the services they provide. And that's pretty much it. But just like you said, that aspect of it is enough to where if you don't know where to go and you don't know who to go to, and you don't, I mean, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go to find that if you're a distributor looking for that? Or you may have an issue and all of a sudden you got burned with a decorator.
Yep.
You're like, I don't want to use these guys anymore. Is there anybody even remotely? Or like just my example before is like, hey, I'm located in Kentucky, but I've got
Yeah.
a huge event in Florida. Is there any decorator in Florida that can help out? Because the supplier I'm using is also in Florida and it would save, $300 on shipping costs. You're like, okay, so those are the things that can help out from a decorator perspective of that. And I believe the decorator membership, if I remember right, it's roughly $295 a year. I think that's what it is. So it's the same thing. It's pretty much pennies
Oh
on the
wow.
dollar, to
I
join
thought
that.
it was even more than being a distributor. So and think about decorating, because again, this was a poor assumption I always made if you're a contract decorator, for like promo, you're just decorating cheap. No, there's a lot of different types of contract decorating. Two of my favorite shops I've ever toured is Same Day Tees, and they're in Illinois, and then Garment Decor, they're in Los Angeles. They both specialize on quick turnaround. They're holding product on hand. Same Day Tees can get out hundreds of shirts within hours of you contacting them,
Yeah.
and it's all connected right there, and makes it easy. And like you said, Jarod, you start building that relationship, and before you know it, now I feel comfortable offering my customers, hey, we can get it out the next day or same
Hmm.
day. And yeah, so just those out there who are looking to do contract, or you do contract decorating, you've got to be on Sage you're leaving your, yeah, it's just a
It's
mistake
a good
not to.
marketing arm for you, right? Just no matter what. I mean, to be able to
And
have that access, that exposure.
And then PPAI, a lot of these decorators and suppliers have a booth actually at PPAI. Just the PPAI show, guys. If you're in the apparel world, think Impressions Long Beach. If you're in the sign it, Printing United. To me, it's PPAI, Printing United, Impressions are your
Yeah.
gigantic shows. And then you have your SGIA and things like that as well. But
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to remember there that somebody said, I mean, there's thousands of booths at the PPAI Expo, but there's somebody at one point said that if you were to walk up and down every aisle, it would be like, 10 or 12 miles or something like that. It's like you can't really do it. You'd have to be
unfathomable.
selective. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Um,
can't fathom how big 2 weeks is Printing United, and it's unfathomable. It's in the same building. And to think of what that we have equipment here, and a
yeah.
PPAI show, it's more of everybody has a 10 by 10
Yeah.
booth.
Or
And
10
there,
or 20.
when
Yeah.
Jarod says thousand, I mean, he's not kidding. It's crazy. Um, and it's kind of funny because when you go to a trade show, what do you typically get? Free promo
Yeah.
products.
Right.
It's the ultimate show to attend, and it's
Yeah.
in Vegas in January. It typically backs right up to Printing United, so I know a lot of shops like to actually go to both.
Yeah.
It's a little bit spread out this year, but yeah, Jarod, thank you so much for joining us. I have, through all my consulting conversations, I have conversations with hundreds of shops. I've definitely seen a big trend in shops offering promo, and a lot of positive feedback about Sage. Because most people try multiple platforms, and I hear a lot of good things about Sage from a distributor and a decorator standpoint.
Well, we appreciate you. I appreciate you giving me the time to get on here and discuss all this. It's always fun to kind of reminisce about old days and then new trends in the future, and to hear about your side of things. How things are on the apparel side or decoration side. So, and of course, if anybody has any questions, feel free to connect, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or get you in touch with your dedicated Sage advisor, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Yeah, do what my mentor said. Don't touch a product. And if what I say today, don't buy a piece of equipment. Don't touch a product. Just it's really that simple. And then you can focus on what's really important, building a book of clients and selling. If you're ever going to sell your business, they're not really interested in buying equipment. They're that is not what they're buying. They're buying your client and the experience that you've sold them that they're going to continue doing. And when you use a platform like Sage, you can make it look easy for apparel, hard goods, signage. If it can be decorated, it's available on Sage, and you can just help your customer with anything. Thank you so much, Jarod, and look forward to seeing you at some of those trade shows.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Thanks, Jarod.
Thanks. Appreciate it.